Jaylen Brown back in, lost the ball, and Tatum is hurt. Tatum is down. Good contest from Dort. Halliburton falls down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell.
Lillard volleyballs it over, and Lillard goes down with an injury.
The new NBA season is about to start, but there will be some noticeable stars absent from at least the start of the season. Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, and DeJounte Murray all went down with non-contact Achilles ruptures late last season. And of course, in the last game of the season, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton completely tore his Achilles in the first quarter. The rest of Indiana's season is history.
The Thunder have taken the NBA by storm. For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City.
To someone who doesn't watch basketball, this might not seem too out of place. Basketball is an intense sport, so it only makes sense that these injuries would occur, right? But in total, 7 Achilles tears took place in the NBA this past year. The average for the last 30 years? 1.36. So what's behind this sharp uptick in these devastating season-ending injuries, and how can sports scientists prevent them? We asked an expert.
So the Achilles tendon is where the rest of the calf musculature attaches to the heel or the calcaneus. So the Achilles generally will tear when it has rapid stretch put to it, or if it's asked to work. So that muscle is what's working to raise us up on our toes.
Typically in seasons past, an Achilles tear was considered an old man injury. Most notably, Kobe suffered an Achilles tear in 2013 when he was 34, and KD in 2019 when he was 30. Now, I know 30 isn't old, but we're talking in NBA terms here. But now we're seeing young stars in their absolute prime having to miss complete seasons as they rehab these injuries. Why?
We've seen a significant increase in Achilles tendon injuries, Achilles tendon ruptures across sports, but certainly in basketball in particular. I think there's a number of factors that are likely contributing, and it's an area of ongoing research, especially for medical folks that are in the NBA. But some of the things that are talked about most is the change of the game of now compared to 10 or 20 years ago. The game is much faster, so the demands on the players' bodies is much more significant. And the other component is potentially a change in conditioning or having those muscles be prepared in order to handle those loads. Another factor that's been discussed is also the amount of playing, or the total volume between practices and games and playoffs and things like that has sort of expanded or grown over time as well. There isn't a lot of science or evidence behind it, but people are looking at, is it the playing surface, right? So we see, like in football, for example, do we see this more on turf fields, or do we see this more versus grass? And then, there's variability in basketball courts as well. Like if you talk to, college or pro players, different courts feel different. So I think there's components of playing surface people have talked about, especially with basketball. Now you see the shoes are not quite as high, so they're a little bit more of a low rise, not like a running shoe, but is there a component of the sneaker construction that plays a role? So I think for many people it's probably a combination of factors. Not all of them can be controlled, right? I think the things that we have the most control over is trying to maximize the tissue capacity of the athlete through preparation and strengthening even before the activity starts.
NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says it's a priority to investigate this uptick in Achilles injuries. But what can actually be done to see a decline in ruptures?
So if you look at some of the videos of injuries that have happened, one of the more common things is when a player is sort of stepping back and they're getting a stretch on the calf and the Achilles, and then they're pushing off. When we see that motion, that's an eccentric load or a lengthening of the muscle as it's being asked to work. So specifically having preventative training or rehabilitation that's focused on building that strength and building that eccentric component, and also incorporating plyometrics and things like that to try to improve the resilience of the tissue to essentially be prepared for the demands. See, like, this isn't isolated to high-level professional athletes. I think you can have, maybe a common example these days. We've seen this huge increase in people participating in pickleball, right? Oftentimes those are folks that maybe they weren't doing very much before. So now they go from, being more sedentary, and now they're doing a lot. So that transition of not really taking time to prepare the muscles for the new demands often is what leads to opportunities like this. Some of the biggest things for the general population to think about is not just just going out and doing a brand new activity that you've never done, but thinking about what are the demands going to be starting off slow, getting a component of starting to train those muscles to be prepared for it, so that when you do get into those positions of stepping back and putting stretch on the muscle and then pushing off, that you don't get hurt.